Hi everyone, this is Hans from Tundra Feed and Supply Company, and today we're going to be taking a look at input maps. Getting input from your players is a critical part of any game, and Godot fortunately features a way for you to define input maps, which makes it incredibly easy to link an input to a behavior inside of your game. So in order to do this, go ahead and go to Project and Project Settings. From there, go to the Input Map tab. Now in here, you can see that we have the ability to add a new action. There's also this button, Show Built-in Actions, on the right that's turned off by default. If you activate this, you'll see a huge list of input actions that have already been defined. These are by default already in a Godot project, so if you were to call input and then type in any of these actions programmatically, you would end up getting these behaviors. But for now, we can move beyond that. So let's turn this back off and let's go ahead and define an action. So for us, maybe we're interested in an attack action. So we'll type attack. We now have our action defined. And if we go over to this plus icon on the right, we can now add inputs that would trigger this action. Now I just left clicked in this field. And so this field, which was listening for inputs, automatically populated to the button I clicked, which was the left mouse button. Let's go ahead and clear that. In our filter inputs, we can type for things like right mouse button, for instance, or we can just simply search through what options we have here. But certainly, a very easy way to go about this is to go to your filter by event text field here and go ahead and type the key that you intend to use for this action. So for this attack, maybe we're okay with the spacebar. Now, there's also additional modifiers here that we can apply to any of these actions, but for now, we'll just accept space. Now, what's neat is that we can then add multiple methods to trigger this action. So think of this in terms of control schemes. For instance, we could also set up joypad button or axes, like a controller trigger, for instance, to trigger an attack. But we can also then have other keys that we want for this as well. So maybe our attack can also be triggered by enter. And we'll hit OK. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this for now. And let's add a script to our node 2D here. And this we'll just title for now inputs. Okay, so we don't need anything in our ready function. We're only interested in our process function for now. And we'll get rid of the comments as well. Okay, we can get rid of pass and replace it with input.isAction just pressed. So something to call out here is while you type this, you'll see a bunch of different methods that input has. So these are all different methods that give slightly different behavior. All right, so just off the top of this list here, we could say isAction just pressed. This will detect when a button is pressed. Beneath it is action just released. This will detect when the player releases that button. So you can see these methods give quite a bit of different behavior. We can also see down here is action pressed rather than is action just pressed. So is action just pressed will trigger each unique instance that a button is pressed, whereas is action pressed will trigger every frame that the button is being pressed. So for instance, if I was holding down the spacebar, every single frame our attack would be happening. For is action just pressed, if I press and hold the spacebar down, only one instance of that attack will trigger. So that's an example of some of the different functionality that is exposed to us through the input class here. So for isAction just pressed, let's go ahead and type in attack. Now you can see it populates with all these other different actions. And those were those default actions that we could see in our input map that were already defined by Godot. So they're naturally populating here as well. But the ones we've added are here at the top. So let's go ahead and add our attack. And this is going to return a bool for a yes or no. So what we want to do is wrap this in an if statement. And then from here, we would then have our attack logic. We're going to print attack. Let's go ahead and save this. This is just called, and then our scene, we'll say inputs. inputs test. Save. And then we're going to go ahead and run our scene. And now you'll notice in our output here, whenever we hit the spacebar, attack is pressed. And if you hold the spacebar, attack is still only pressed once. And now, because of the way that input maps work, right? So we've got multiple keys that will trigger for this action. So if I hit enter, we're also going to see attack. Okay, and that is one way to utilize the input map system and to get a hold of player inputs and link them to behaviors in Godot 4. Thank you so much for watching.